You're up. Everything's good. All right. Well, hello everyone. Welcome. My name is Vex. This is the third episode of the Vexatious podcast, and here today we are interviewing Osok, one of the very small dev team of Hide or Die, part of VecFour Digital. Um, Hello, welcome. Thanks for
Hey,
joining
how you
us.
doing?
This is
Happy to be
uh
here.
this is interesting. I've never been in this space where we could interview someone that I've not um, talked to a lot before, um, and especially in this sort of industry where I'm used to playing games, streaming games. I'm also a comic book seller, so I'm very much in the nerdy space, but I've never dipped into the game dev space. So it's interesting to have someone here to talk to about that, and that's kind of what I want to focus on today. Um, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of split opinions about things that happen, at least in game development, and I don't want to be over negative, is what I'm trying to say. I
No, you
will.
can be as negative as you want. I'm married, so I know how it goes.
I feel like, especially the VecFour Discord, there is a very divisive split between the people who are absolutely in love with VecFour and especially Hydra Die, and people who are not. And I'm gonna try in about an hour and a half or so, to try and bridge that gap and to try and let the devs have a voice, because it seems that if you're just typing in Discord, people don't seem to care. They don't care about the little yellow name tag or anything like that.
hmm
So I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and let us know what your role is at VecFour, and maybe your entire role in Hide or Die. So take it away.
Okay. Um, well, my handle is Osok, but my real name is Brandon. Um, I'm one of three co-founders. Sam was the other, and Swanton 007. Um, I met Swanton in Singapore when we were working at an ad agency. Um, Him and Sam, they've kind of known each other like from the Halo days. They worked on little projects like Project Contingency was one. They kind of started out with CryEngine, after
Okay.
Crisis. That's really where I think a lot of people started getting into game dev because it was a lot easier.
Mm.
Um, they worked on stuff, and then it's a really long story. Maybe we'll jump into it later. But Swanton and I, uh, we had to make a coffee machine. We had to invent a coffee machine at our job in Singapore, even though we're there to make like VR and AR stuff for the marketing industry.
Okay. So
So I got the train coming. Give it a sec.
it's unfortunate. Just a quick aside. Everyone in the chat, I am keeping an eye on it, but I'm not going to answer any questions through chat or anything like that. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the audio help as well. Okay, so you're making a coffee machine.
Yeah. So horns of blast and
It's okay.
so yeah, we were there. I mean, we had done some stuff for Royal Caribbean. We did like this just like this VR thing where you had to be on a like a cruise ship, and basically we had to like sell tickets is what they wanted. They wanted to have like a convention and
Sure.
do all that jazz. Then we did some other stuff and just little VR AR things, and then just one day they're just like, hey, we we want to change the way coffee flavoring is delivered, which
Okay.
is just like, okay, well, everyone's been to Starbucks. It's like a shampoo bottle,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's just a couple pumps. Yeah. That's it.
Yep, yep. And basically this company is Carry. They supplied their flavoring to Starbucks globally. So
Okay.
80% of their business is just the pump and dump of the flavor. So
Okay. Never heard that term
So,
related to a coffee before, and typically it's stocks, but okay.
oh, you can apply it to a lot of things. But so basically, just wanted to make it more elegant, I
Sure.
guess. So we went on just an absolute tangent of like trying to invent, like, we're software engineers. How are you gonna just invent something?
Yeah, it's a
So fortunately, it started off as just, oh, can you guys come up with some ideas and just do like a visualization? Um, so that part's not too difficult. Um, Actually, I'm gonna link you because you will be able to find this on my portfolio. Actually, I have some pictures just so people can have a little bit of context.
sure.
Let's see. This should be it. Let me just double check. Yeah, there we go. Why don't you pull that bad boy up? Um, I would share my screen, but I don't want to make any mistakes.
That's fair. Uh, where on your portfolio?
So
Sorry.
it would be the third one on the top on the right. Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
that's
the
Royal
Royal
Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Just kidding. Center bottom.
This is interesting. Oh, okay. All right, let's bring this on screen quick. Promise this was not rehearsed. Clearly. Okay. So we've got this is
So
all
basically, yeah,
digital.
yeah. So it was using Unreal Engine. So
Okay.
basically, we came up with these two ideas. One, which I thought, well, I mean, was fucking dope, which is the cap that goes on top. When you put it on, actually, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a carry cap video. If you scroll down a little further, right there.
Yeah.
So in that, if you want to post a link in chat, you can. Anyone can just look at, that video of basically how we wanted to do it. And essentially, like the cap, you'd put it on, and then the flavoring was in there, and you'd twist the cap when you would get it, and you could do different amounts, so you could control how much essentially flavoring or sugar you wanted in your coffee.
Sure.
And I mean, I thought that was awesome. And then we just kind of they were like, well, that's really cool and stuff, but could you also try like making a machine, a way that it's bronze and crafty and it's got knobs and levers and all steampunk and shit. Um,
That's
so we
where
also did
this
yeah. So we also did a visualization for that, which is on that page. And unfortunately, they wanted that one. So, this is something Swanton and I are actually pretty proud of. If you scroll all the way down, there's pictures of the final product, and it was functioning. And they took this around to Starbucks in Dubai, in Germany, at these conventions to essentially, try to sell people on it.
This
So
looks awesome.
we didn't get the cap. We got the machine.
Yeah.
Uh, now you might say awesome, but I mean,
I'm sure
if
it took a
if
lot.
all this kind of circles back to this is why we ended up making Hot or Die. Is because of
Really?
this godforsaken flavor coffee machine.
New killer confirmed. The coffee addict.
uh, it 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 was just like a wild ride of it started off, it's just like, can you just make one tiny mechanism which is like 4 milliliters of flavoring with some kind of crank or something which is better than pump pump, right?
Sure.
And I don't know if you've ever really been in the marketing industry or anyone who has, as they will know, things escalate very, very quickly. The client comes in is just like, oh, tweak this 10%. And it's the same thing as like a 401k. It's just compounding. So it's like 10% the first meeting, 20 the next, but now that's 20% of the additional 10.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, they're like, we want 1 to 10 milliliters of flavoring. We want 4 flavors. We want 2. There's sugar inside that you can't see, which pumps out. And oh god, I'm gonna have an aneurysm thinking about it.
The inner
Um,
workings of a coffee machine. I didn't
yeah.
know. I didn't know I'd be learning that today. That's interesting.
So it kept coming back because it was a prototype, but they wanted it to be like fully functional. They paid
Mass
two
market.
hundred thousand. They paid $200,000 for this thing,
Mm.
which is just wild. Um, and they kept bringing it back. We keep sending it when it was finished, and we always thought it was done and it was over. But it would come back with like a broken gear or some leak, and
And this is still just the three of you.
huh?
This is still just the three of you, or
Well,
is it
this
like
was just
a big
me and
team?
Swanton.
Okay, okay.
Sam was going to school in Chicago, so me and Swanton were over in Singapore doing this
I
stuff.
see.
And I think it was we had like this whole big presentation and stuff in the end of December of 2017, and then it came back at the end of January. We're just sitting there, working on the next project, and all of a sudden, like our boss and then the client, just the client like representative, the account guy,
Sure.
they come and they're bringing in the case and they sit on the floor. And I remember sitting here, and I'm just like next to him on this side. They come around here. They set it down behind his chair. So he couldn't even, scoot his chair back to like get up. It was the weirdest thing.
That's
So I
very
just like
weird.
look at him and he won't even turn around to look. He's just like side-eyeing me like this. Because guns are illegal in Singapore, but if he would have had one, it would have been a messy office. And he just he
Holy
just
shit!
he looks at me, and it was soul crushing. He was completely fed up, and I was just fed up. I just laughed. I just burst out laughing because it was so absurd that we're not done with this,
Yeah.
and we had to do one more.
How long at this point had you been going at it?
We I remember the day. We were so happy when it started. It was July 31st, 2017. We
Okay.
just finished the Royal Caribbean project,
Mm.
which is on my portfolio there, and I think I just got done with like a 3-week vacation. I went back to the States,
Pretty
visited my
good.
parents and stuff. And I was coming back. I was like refreshed, and I kind of knew about the project, so I was still in contact. And it was just like, so guys, you got to kind of invent this little mechanism. And Swanton and I were just like, hell yeah. There's like, all right, here's the budget. It's 200K. Go to the hardware store. And I don't have any of these pictures for you because I don't know if Swanton would let me show them. But we went and we were just like 13-year-old girls in the mall. I mean, taking pictures with everything. We were buying every gasket and tube and plungers and rubber socket, just everything we could think of. And just taxiing all over the island of Singapore. We had an awesome time. And I mean, we just made these cool little things in the first couple days, and then it just kept going and going until end of January 2018.
Mm.
So it was a massive part of our lives. It was about 90% of the time Swanton was there, and he
Okay.
just came from CIG working on Star Citizen.
Oh.
So he thought he was coming in because we needed a technical artist, as a programmer, and it was just basically us and then one 3D artist. And he finished up the Royal Caribbean, and then we started on some other stuff, and then he just got stuck with the coffee machine. And that was kind of the time. Late December when we like finished it all. We were so like tired of it, and him and Sam had started working on Hyderdi's first like iteration. I want to say like September of 2017.
Mm.
So they started working on Hyderdi then while we were doing this.
This is before the Kickstarter launched.
Yes, because that would have been June 2018.
Yeah.
So they were prototyping. Sam and Swanton, they were prototyping a lot of different stuff. They have like a few prototypes they'd always kind of worked on together. You know, Sam is he's brilliant. Like he is just like he knows an idea, and I mean he essentially came up with the idea for Fall Guys uh, in in late 2017.
Damn it!
But yeah,
Should have pulled the trigger.
yeah, it wasn't as big battle royale, but
Sure.
it was the very same sort of deal. And we should have went with that instead of Hide or Die.
I don't know about that. Fall
um,
Guys is on my shit list, so
yeah.
we don't want to talk about that right now.
And then so I was kind of getting the itch for game development. I've always kind of dabbled in that kind of thing, you know, after the coffee machine. So Swanson and I started working on a prototype which came to be known as Moped Manslaughter. Um, that that we worked on for about 2 weeks. Um, in you know the end of 2017, while Sam and him were working on the Hide or Die.
Sure.
And then I I was like begging Sam and him to let me work on it with them because I wanted to have a team of guys and let's start doing this.
Yeah.
And
Split the work.
they're pretty reluctant because I didn't know Sam at all, uh, and he wants to give up 50% of his idea. No one ever wants to do that because it was just those two guys.
Mhm.
But I kept begging and begging and begging. And I told him about a time because Sam said to me, he goes, "Well, why do you want to do this so bad?" And I told him that me and my buddies back in 2008 when Crisis was released, we made a little like hide and seek sort of game where Nomad would have a shotgun and everyone else would have no weapons and just would run around the map. And if he tagged them, they'd switch sides.
Sure.
Just shotgun until the match was over. So we built like tight little maps with lots of hiding spaces and stuff like that. So eventually they let me on, and I want to say it was like the day after Christmas or something like that. So we were on vacation and we started working on Hide or Die, all together. And it started as just like 4 players. It started basically how it ended.
Really?
It was like 4 players. It was you would go into the house, someone would find the axe, they would just become the killer, and then you had until midnight to get out. You had to find keys and things of that jazz.
So it was more closed space as opposed to open space.
Very, so you could hide in every cabinet or like in the TV stand or get into places you really shouldn't be able to.
Sure.
And the first to have a Steam page, you must have a video,
Okay.
to make it public. So they put up a trailer, and I mean, they slapped it together, and it's if you look at the quality of what was then to what we did, over the course of the first year and then the second year, it was such a huge difference, and we felt like we kind of had something there. So then Sam was starting to get a little burnt out. He'd been working on it since September, right? So September, October, November, December, January, 5 months, and
it's a long time.
That's where you start. That's where you start to kind of get a lot of bugs, and it gets annoying. And it's really hard to finish something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Easy to start, very hard to finish.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest thing to do in game dev. And I was just coming off, a year where I programmed 7 different Unreal Engine projects that went out to clients, at the job I was working in Singapore.
Okay.
So, that's kind of how I really got myself on there. I'm just like, yo, man, I'll help you finish it. I can do this. I have a track record. They're not huge projects, maybe a 4-week project or 3-month project.
Sure.
So we we moved it from not being in a house to just the farm level, which is actually the screenshot that you have up on
yeah,
Twitch in the
Emma's
background.
farmstead.
Yeah. Became Emma's farmstead much later, but
sure.
That was the basis for it. And that was the same sort of deal. Just there would be an axe, and all players would spawn it, and they would run and pick it up. And whoever would pick it up, all the the lights would go to red, and that's how you knew who the killer was. Then we started putting in the fuse box mechanic at that point. Then the hunter got the radar, and it just kind of evolved from that. It just was one thing on top of another.
Sure.
Um, I mean, I can keep going. I can take you all the way up to the Kickstarter and beyond if you want.
Yeah, I'm in for the ride, man. I don't know what. There's so much that I want to ask, but I don't want to derail the story too much. Like,
Okay. Um,
just
so
keep going for now.
we worked on that, and we we had we had our very first like closed Discord alpha test in like mid January, late January. It was like I was there for like 2 weeks working on the project. It was only like 100 people. Our Discord is really small, and
Sure.
basically the feedback that we got was, I like running to get the axe, and we just want it to be bigger. They just wanted more space, more hiding spaces. Um, so we just took the feedback from that, and we expanded it until we eventually had our Discord alpha, which was in not like the closed one, but the one
Yeah.
that we just kind of let anyone in. Which,
In-house QA.
yeah, it was like I think we had 100 in the January, and then 2,000, 2,500 in the end of March Discord alpha. So it just kind of exploded in that
Yeah.
time. And basically what we said was on our Steam page was, if you want to play, you can play it for free, but you got to be in the Discord.
Sure.
I just sent people to our Discord. It just was growing and growing and growing. And you know how anything is, it's exponential when it comes to that stuff. And then when we when we sent out the keys, we had an absolute disaster because Swanton made like a bot that was supposed to pass them out and stuff. And
Sure.
it could only do like 10 keys per 5 seconds or something like that. And everyone, was exclamation point give key is all you had to type anywhere in the Discord.
No.
And I didn't prepare for this. I should have, but my wife was so excited, and she took a video of it. I'll have to find it, and we can send it out later. But
Yeah,
she took
yeah,
a
yeah.
video of it, and, I had my 2 screens, and we had like the countdown, and she was all excited, and it's like counting down, counting down. I'm on a call with Swanton, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but he just goes, "Oh my god, the keybots broke, the keybots broke." But on the other screen, I got Discord, and it's just
Give key.
key. I mean, and she recorded it. It's hilarious. I still watch it every once in a while, but it's on my other PC.
You got to send that over, or post it in the Discord so we can.
Yeah, I'll have
take a
to.
look at it.
It was hilarious. He was freaking out. I was freaking out. But people really enjoyed it. What they liked was the fuse box mechanic was you had to use your brain a little bit. You had to press the corresponding keys on your keyboard, and you had to rush for the object. And then it would change. You do like 3 tiers, and then you have to escape to the dock. Only half the players could escape or something like that. And that really like got people's attention, and the Discord just really started to grow from there. And then we listened to the feedback there, and the feedback was, if I become killer, I don't want to have to like run into the next area because I have 0 chance of being the killer next. Because
Sure.
we'd spawn you back, and then you'd go over there and someone would grab it. So that was some of the feedback. And then another was that there just wasn't enough players to kill because the map was starting to get bigger because people wanted more area, but then that becomes harder to find people. And unfortunately, you go from 4, then we messed around with 6, and then 8. I think was the Discord alpha. Maybe we upped it to 12, and that's how we ended up arriving at the 16 verse 1 for the Kickstarter. Because we're like, okay, 15 verse 1.
Yeah.
We thought that's a good number. It's kind of 16 players has obviously kind of like proven itself over time.
Yeah.
16, 32, 64, stuff like that. But people wanted the areas to be varied.
Hmm.
I think you started at the church, then you kind of went to like a little in between, like a slaughterhouse area, and then to a farm. And it was really difficult to try to blend those together for those three stages that we had in the Discord Alpha. And people knew what the next section was, and they kind of said they didn't like that. And that obviously pushed us into eventually what Kickstarter was about, and then the first beta, uh, which was you'd go into an area, you'd have no clue what the next one was. You'd go in, you do the fuse boxes, and to power the lights, I guess, and it's
Yeah, yeah.
hard to remember. It is fuzzy. And then when you would go in, you could have to go out one of four directions. So it was very non-linear. So you
Hmm.
couldn't just, oh, we just go this way and it's going to be over. You could go in, you could go out this way or that way, back where you came, and you could go back where you came, but you'd be going into a different area, kind of have like that waiting area in between, and then boom, a whole new area. So we kind of had the seam of the waiting area. So we could do really different things like, the swamps to a plane crash, to, the farmhouse. It was all, pretty seamless. And, obviously that caught on, the Kickstarter did amazing. Um,
Yeah, it did amazingly
and,
well.
really, it was the people of the Discord, without having, I think we had like 3,000 or so before we did the Kickstarter, and we're just so excited about it. They donated to streamers to watch it. Famously Ninja watched, in that video ended up getting like 2 million views. And
I did not know that.
yeah, you can find it on YouTube. And Ninja's he's an entertainer. Hate him or love him. He he sells whatever he's watching or playing, which is very counter to maybe how Shroud might watch your video and
Sure.
give you shit or something like that, right? Which he did, and he said it was absolute ass and garbage. And, that's fine. I agree with him a little bit, at that time. So,
That's
but
rough.
Ninja sold it, acted scared, rewound parts to look at it, and we're really thankful to him for that. And
Hmm.
that's the thing. I think it was Bromo. She was a mod for a while. The real Bromo. She donated $20 to Ninja, and he watched the whole 9-minute video.
That's pretty good.
It's unbelievable. So I think I gave her $100 after that to go do more stuff. I don't think we really got
Be our
much out of it,
community
but
manager. Here you go.
yeah. um, so we had the Kickstarter, and when we were building the Kickstarter, it was a lot of effort. It's a very surprising amount of effort to build the materials, and essentially you're stuck promising stuff whether it's feasible or not.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
you have to sell yourself and make what you're showing worth enough for people to reach that goal. And sometimes the goals are pretty high. I think Kickstarter
and
is a weird spot.
everything that we said in there that we were going to do, we had a prototyping working version of it, so we felt comfortable enough, to say we'll do this, we'll do that.
Hmm.
um, and the thing with game dev is something can sound just incredible on paper, but once you actually do it, it's just dog shit. And we'll get into that later.
Well, we could talk about
I guess,
engines and things later. Uh,
yeah.
that might play into it.
um, I mean, I guess this is probably like a good point to kind of stop. And any questions or anything, because beyond Kickstarter is a whole nother. Before Kickstarter is a very wild, wild west, and we're just like, none of us had shipped an actual video game. I had shipped projects and stuff
Yeah,
like that for clients like Shell Oil and British Telecom and whatnot. But
not
it's a whole other crazy thing after
yeah,
that.
not quite the same. Especially when you said like the Discord's up to like 3,000 people. At that point, you're you've got a pretty big testing group. Um, and I think the VecFour devs have always been very much in tune with the community and in tune with things that like are really game breaking and things that people really don't like, and quick at implementing changes to that. And at least I hopped in with the Kickstarter, so I wasn't around pre Kickstarter. So that's something that I quickly learned in the various iterations of the betas and in through the launch. My question is, do you think that the original vision for Hide or Die was somehow muddled or muddied up by the attempting to not please, but listen to the voice of the community? Do you think maybe like that scale tipped a bit too far, and then by the time Kickstarter hit, it was just simply a different game?
Yeah, I I would say there's probably three instances of that, which would have been the jump from our more public Discord alpha at the end of March of 2018 to the Kickstarter. Another one would have been end of December 2018 after we did our beta, and then another would have been like April of 2019. So we can touch on those later, but
Sure.
specifically to this, um, I don't want to say it muddied it, but you can't just ignore people who are playing your game and say they want XYZ. When they told us we want it bigger when we had 4 players. Okay, well we ended up taking up to 8 and we're pretty happy with that before we ended up it was between the closed alpha and that
Yeah.
and the Discord alpha in March. And we felt pretty comfortable with that. We're like, there was a lot of action for the killer, and the problem was there was less action for the survivor
Sure.
as you increase survivors. So then, you're probably wondering, well, why would you do 15 versus 1? Well, the idea there was previously you would be the killer and you were the killer mostly.
Yeah.
And only a couple people got a shot at it. With our vision for what the Kickstarter version of the game was going to be, it was just, these 3 to 5 minute sections, and then you're just off to the next one. And it dwindles down. Like in the beginning, it's pretty frantic. And as a survivor, yes, there's 15 of you, so chances of being hunted are low. But it's pretty frantic because you're like, all right, this is my chance. He might not find me. Let me go do the objective. Let's get these lights on. Let's move to the next. You lose 2 to 3 people, and now you're down to 10 to 12, whatever. And then there, you're racing to get to the orb at the time. So there was a lot of action for you at that moment. And generally what would happen is, you'd converge at the same time, and then you'd have to like do a U-turn and run away.
Or just stand right behind the killer. That's fine.
Yeah. So, that first minute or so was, really, really active, even though there's a lot of players. And then just as it dwindled down, it got more and more active for the survivors. So we kind of mitigated that. I think we got lucky, to be honest, because, when we wrote it up on paper, we're like, oh yeah, it'll dwindle, and we'll get down to 1v1. But we never stopped really to think about how that was going to affect the survivor experience. It ended up mostly working out, for the Kickstarter, and people obviously, excited about it. But when you listen to people, it's going to take you places you maybe didn't want to go.
Oh yeah, didn't want to go, or maybe even things that you didn't think about that are positive. There's positive and negative.
Yeah, I got a great example actually. When we started out, we wanted this shit to be gritty. You needed to crawl and crouch and sneak, and sprinting is going to make noise, and you're going to get caught. And then to find a fuse box, you needed to find the fuse box. It would have a red light, and we do it by lighting. You'd go over there, and you do it. And unfortunately, only 20% of the players understand that.
Yeah.
Everyone else needs, the lightning bolt icon above it that says, go here and activate. And, we got some, this is kind of post Kickstarter, but we got some pushback on that because they're like, oh, you're just dumbing it down. It's not realistic anymore. And you piss off those people to try to make the 80%, so they can have fun.
Yeah,
And
there's always going to be a majority of people who have fun and a minority of people who are like, diehard elitist.
yeah, yeah,
Which, if they want to find a game that's like that and the game that they like is going in a different direction, like that's fine. I think there's still room for that. But I did think something about that because when you mentioned the original Fuse boxes, I was like, oh yeah, there was the full keyboard. You had to type, and I remember hating it because I suck at typing while not looking at the keyboard. So when it went to the number box, I was like, oh, that's awesome because I could actually like
yeah.
play the objective and not just like hide and make sure someone else does it.
Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of the feedback was from people who were, dissatisfied with what DBD was. Obviously, is a great game objectively. I personally didn't like it. I think I played 45 minutes, and I was like, ah, man, fuck this shit.
I've played like
But
800 hours and I don't know if I like it yet.
I didn't refund it though because it was, more of like an indie studio, and
Hmm.
it's the same reason I bought Insurgency. I just you know, it's hard. It's hard to make a game, and if you, some people are making some quality stuff, and I reserve my refunds for absolutely trash games, like legitimately trash,
Yeah.
because this is a whole nother rant that we'll go on, but uh, imagine you go to Walmart and you buy some off-brand macaroni. You should get the Kraft, but you don't because you're kind of cheap. You get the off-brand
Great
macaroni, you go
value.
home,
Yeah.
yeah, you go home, you eat it, and you're just like, man, this is a garbo. You don't get to go back to the store, ask for your money back, and then go to the aisle where it is and put up a sign which says this is garbo, don't buy it. And that's really the difference between a gaming product and one in the real world.
Sure.
And in that instance, I can understand really absolutely shit games, but we'd see things where someone would have 50, 60 hours for a $20 game, and then they give you a negative review. You can't win. You
Yeah.
can't win. Or it's 0.1 hours, and they're just like, shit game, devs are liars, refund. And you're just like, man, come on, at least try to play it. You didn't even get through the tutorial because I know it
Yeah.
takes longer.
Yeah.
You know,
Kept getting found by the
yeah.
the fisherman.
But yeah, back to it. There's some difficult decisions you just got to make, and
Hmm.
we try to navigate the feedback and our own vision, and we probably got away from our own vision pre Kickstarter a bit.
Okay.
Um, People helped kind of guide us to where I think we needed to go, and that was the time where I think us letting go of our original 4 players in a tiny house, get a key, escape by midnight. I think that's where we made a good decision.
Yeah.
Obviously, look at the Kickstarter.
Yeah. The Kickstarter's success. When I saw the trailer, this was during like the big initial craze of battle royales, right? This is right after
Hmm.
PUBG had really gone massive, and right at the beginning of Fortnite, and everyone's sort of on this battle royale kick. And I remember I found it because of other battle royales. Someone had linked it, and the idea to me, being a primarily horror game streamer, a horror battle royale that I could implement into my stream that wouldn't be too different than going from like playing Dead by Daylight to playing Fortnite, which is a completely tonally different game,
Yeah,
was really intriguing and really good. So obviously I backed it right away. All of the promises didn't seem like out out there promises. Like you could, like you said, you could visually see what you had. You obviously promised things that you at least had a somewhat working idea of, which I think is a major fault of most Kickstarters. They just sort of
yeah,
have these
yeah,
empty promises, and it's like, oh, I just spent $100 on this. Well, fuck you. Like 3 years later, it's not there anymore. Um, so the battle royale aspect really piqued my interest, and I guess is what really got a lot of people on it. Um, what do you think led to a sort of revision or reverting away from that? Like you said, we started at 4 people, then we got up to 16, and that's what a lot of people, at least in the public eye, seem to grab onto. And then we dwindled back down to 4, and that's where we're at now. What do you think was either a major cause or a design decision?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a lot between the end of the Kickstarter and the time when that happened. Um, so I can get to that answer, but I should probably kind of bring us up to that moment.
Sure.
Um, so post Kickstarter, we did like 155,000, I think it was. I want to say we set our goal to 52,000 or 57,000 or something like that.
It was below
Um,
60K, I think.
yeah, and that was so. Let me back up. My undergrad is accounting.
Okay.
Okay, so I actually let me back up even further just so you can get an idea.
In the beginning.
Kind of what I've been through. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Um, so when I was in high school, I wanted to be a professional golfer. I mean,
Okay.
that was a dream. I started the golf team at my high school, um, and we had it my freshman and sophomore year. I was trying to petition the school board, and we were at a really small school. 115 kids. The town is like 3,000 people up in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And petitioned them for 2 years. We finally got the golf team my junior year. We placed the last place in conference my junior year. And then my senior year, we won conference. And,
nice.
I was really excited about that. The golf team made it like another 10 years after I'd left, but I was really excited about it. So if you want to become a professional golfer, you have to go to Q school, which is to get your, it's basically to qualify to get your PGA card. So you can be a PGA pro, golf on the tour.
Sure.
I was going to go to Arizona to a Q school, but then I stayed in Wisconsin because of the girl I was dating. What an idiot.
Seems like a good move.
So I stay in Wisconsin. So I end up deciding going to one of the state universities, which had a golf course design and management bachelor's degree. So I was like, oh, sweet. I remember when I was 9 years old and, Windows 95 or whatever it was back then, like painting little golf courses in MS Paint.
Nice.
And it was just the coolest thing ever. So I was like, oh, I'll do that. And then after the first semester, I realized I'm not going to make any money doing this. So I switched. I switched to finance, like broker kind of finance and all that kind of stuff. And then after that semester, I realized it's like against my morality. I felt like this is too sleazy of finance for me. So I ended up switching to accounting, and that's what I ended up going to school for. So did accounting, did finance for a while. Then I was doing that in Kansas City, and then that's where I was like, this corporate world is driving me crazy. I sold everything, my house, and went to South Korea to teach English. So I taught English there for 2.5 years, taught myself Unreal Engine, got a job in Singapore doing VR stuff. That's where I met Swanton.
Sure.
So all the way back to how we figure out how much we should do the Kickstarter, we'd always take the subway home after work. It's like 45 minutes.
Okay.
Because the rent was so stupid in Singapore. It was like,
have to live outside the city, right?
It was like $2,100 a month for 700 square feet. People in LA and stuff are probably like, oh, that's not that expensive.
Yeah, but you live in LA. You choose to do that.
Yeah. So, if I wanted to be like close to work, it's like $3,500 a month for a one bedroom. It's just ridiculous.
God.
So, we always had this 45-minute drive back on the subway, and we're trying to determine, we kind of work backwards. Was how much do we need to do what we think we're going to promise? And as the Kickstarter was doing well, we were getting investment pitches to us.
Interesting.
While the Kickstarter was kind of doing well, and we were kind of hoping that's something that could happen, but we weren't really sure. So we figured it would cost about $100K to do what we wanted to do. And 100K is a lot to get on Kickstarter. So, we did a lot of research. I was crunching the numbers in Excel. This is the accounting in me. And, we found that Kickstarters that were successful, just Kickstarters in general, you either did essentially zero or you doubled how much you asked for. And that was just kind of like across the board. So we realized that you shouldn't ask for 100 if you want to get 100, because if your Kickstarter is even going to work, it's going to be double whatever you ask.
Sure.
So we went, mid 50,000, and you hit it within the first week, and now just people dogpile on because it's the fear of missing out.
Exactly.
It's the perception that this will be successful. If other people like it, that means I will like it. So that was a calculation we did there, and obviously it went even better than that. Did 155. After taxes and fees and refunds and all that jazz, it came out to like 137,000. So like 20K just chopped right off the top.
That's a lot.
A lot of people don't realize that. So when they think, oh wow, 155,000, they're like, oh, three guys, they can live comfortably for 2 years and make the game. It's just not the reality of doing something like that. Now, if we kept our full-time jobs, which was the plan, if we could only get 50-some thousand, because we had good jobs in Singapore, there's no reason to leave.
Yeah,
we're just so disillusioned after the coffee machine fiasco that we were just praying that it would work. So we get the 155, and then we kind of looked at it and we thought, this is our chance. This is a chance to do it. So then we start trying to figure out, all the tax issues and all that. And because we're U.S. citizens, no matter where you live, you're going to be taxed. Now, your first 100K, if you live overseas the whole year, you don't pay any tax on. Probably not a lot of people know that, which is very awesome. But if you're running a business, you're going to be getting, your business is going to be getting paid from Valve.
Yeah.
Now, if you are not if your company is not U.S. based, automatically, if there's not a tax treaty with the U.S., Steam takes their 30%, but they also take another 30% for U.S. tax. Just boom, straight away.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So they're just, it's because there's some tax law about the way Valve treat it as royalties.
Okay.
Which I'm not sure why they do that, because I know they can do it differently where the creator, they wouldn't take the 30% tax. So I'm not really sure what the reason is for that, but it's another story for another day.
Sure.
So we essentially realized, okay, well, we could try to start a business in Singapore, but we'd have to find someone who's a citizen or a permanent resident. And, Singapore will tax us, even though they have really low taxes, but all the U.S. income, which is about 35% of Steam revenue, they're going to take 30% of that. So, we're calculating, we have no choice. We have to move back to the United States. Number one, that's expensive. Swanton just left a year earlier.
Oh, no.
So he really wasn't excited about it. I guess I had been gone almost 5 years. I didn't really have a desire to come back because, life was great overseas, easy to travel and all that. So we just kind of were forced. So we're taking that lump of money, which is like 100 and we'll say 140. And, we have to come back here. Sam still has to go to school, so he can't quit and work full time. So it's like, oh, okay, where do we move? Well, there's I think 7 states that have 0% state income tax. And it's like Washington, Nevada, Tennessee, whatever. So we ended up Dallas, Texas.
Sure.
So we got here. We got one of those like little like a WeWork sort of deal. It wasn't at WeWork, but the same sort of deal where you can kind of like rent a little office and
have a little space.
Yeah, I mean it was probably like the size of this room, which really is not that big, and it was like $1,800 a month.
Oh my god.
and we really didn't want to get it, but we because we said that we were going to do the beta October 31st, we needed to hire an artist and an animator. We could not rely on just freelance, and so that means we had to get an office.
Yeah.
So it just starts chipping away at the money, real quick. Um, so we just like slaved away to the beta October 31st, and it was a disaster. You know,
It was
people
tough
like
getting on and finding games. I remember that.
yeah, we were complete idiots. Like we said we could do like 10 games on one server, which was just I don't know why. We just did some bad math. It was real bad. Um, and it was so stupid. And people had a horrible time trying to play, but the few people who could play, they liked it, but it was so buggy, and we're trying to do this so quickly because we don't want to be like the other Kickstarters, which take 3 years and then you have nothing to show for it. So I think we had just a hair over 3,000 players played that.
Oh, nice.
Um, and it was just like over a weekend, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It
And
was just a couple days.
yeah, it was just over a weekend. And we were just like, oh my God, it was just like a slap in the face. We were so tired from the sprint to that beta from essentially we started September 1st, we got in the States, because we still had to work our jobs,
Mm-hmm.
we had to give them like a month notice and all that to find a replacement. So September 1st to October 31st, we got an office, we moved overseas, we hired 2 employees, and we did all that in the 2 months. And, we were very tired from it, but we were happy that we were able to get something out there that we thought people liked. And then we did a follow-up test in mid-December,
Mm.
and we only had 300 players that played them.
Interesting. I can't
Yeah,
remember if I was part of that or not. I don't remember the timeline.
you may not have because there's only 300 players. And to be honest, we were shocked. All the server issues were fixed, tons of bugs. There was very few like really game breaking stuff, and we
Mm.
thought like, this isn't like people are going to be excited about this. This is going to tell us that we're on the right direction because people still said they liked what they saw. And then for no one to come back and play it when all these people have essentially already paid for the game through Kickstarter,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know what to think. It was just
I
it
think
was
I,
horrible.
I think a lot of that has to do with the current psychology of people who consume early access games and betas and alphas and things like that. Like I believe Fortnite is still technically an early access game. I don't know if they've ever fully released the battle royale. Like
I
people
don't think so. I don't know.
people have been accustomed to a full game being in early access, and this is just more than Fortnite or anything else like that. I think it's across the board. Even a lot of games on Steam are culprits in this. You 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 tote a game being a full release, uh, like 3 or 4 months ahead of schedule, just to maybe someone pre-ordered it so they get early access to this, and then they release this game and it's like basically a full game. It just gave a little bit more time for the devs to like polish things up or add in some DLC for later on. And then the game
Yeah, yeah,
releases, and when the game releases, nothing changes because the game was released a couple months ago when they said it was early access. So I think a lot of the philosophy uh, uh, that people who consume this type of early access content think that a game should be finished or at least very very presentable in early access beta and alphas. They don't understand that that's for mass testing. Like you're supposed to deal with the bugs, report them. Yeah, it can be exhausting to report bugs as a player, but that's what you're signing up to do. You're signing up early to gain access to the ability to help the devs and help the community sort of make this a better game. And I think a lot
yeah,
of people don't understand that.
yeah. I mean, like Sepris says in chat. a lot of people they're going to try it once, and if it's buggy and whatnot, they're not going to come back to it. And it's a good point, but basically what we thought was, if it's fun, they're going to want to play it 6 weeks later when we say, hey, we have a new update, the server's fixed, the issues that you had are gone. If the core game loop is fun, we expect them to come back,
Yeah.
and they didn't. So we you know the, we're at this point, we have 4 people in an office. We're here in the States, and after October beta, we're going into the December. And when it was only 300 players, I mean, the very next day we were very serious about trying to find funding,
Hmm.
because we we didn't want to say it, but we knew, just like looking in each other's eyes. Swanton and I mean, we generally ran operations, because Sam was in school much of the time, and I'm 10 years senior than both of those kids,
Sure.
so you know, it was up to me. I was the CEO, on paper, but you know, I had the most experience with business and all that kind of jazz. So,
Sure.
so we just got serious about trying to find funding and pitching and reaching out to the people who reached out to us during the Kickstarter, because we knew, we didn't want to say it, but we knew we were going to have to remake the game, because we were planning like March. We were going, we're going to take like the 6 months after that beta. Well, I guess it wouldn't be six; it'd be what, 4,
Yeah.
and release, into early access in March of 2019. And money was probably going to run out early March, and we're just going to be able to coast right to release. And that's what we had planned from the beginning. That's why we asked for the amount of money that we did, and do the beta here, we'll get the feedback, we'll do this, we'll do that. On the Kickstarter we said, beta at the end of August, and then release, October 31st. But
Yeah.
um, you get so much feedback from people who wanted in on the Kickstarter, that you were starting to realize that what you said in the Kickstarter, you needed to do more.
Mm.
So, there was 3 people who paid $2,500 to have their custom killer in the game. Um, Only one of them made it in, which was Swifter, and we refunded the other 2 people. We just messaged them and just said straight up, like, we implemented one character, and it actually cost us, $7,200 or something like that. When you take, the art and the hours and the animation and the design time to come up with the abilities, the testing, and we just calculated it out, and we just said we can't afford it, so we just give them their money back. And then a lot of people probably don't know that. They probably just think, oh, they just didn't deliver all the content. But we're honorable people, so we weren't going to do something like that.
I will say that that was going to be one of my sort of supplementary questions, because I was just talking the other day to my stream about, like, hey, we know that Swiftor got in the game, but how many other people met that tier, and similar tiers, like Face being in the game and whatnot. So I appreciate you being very transparent about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone got their face in the game. Who, you know, uh, actually, I'm pretty sure that the 2 people in those tiers, we gave them every single reward except the killer for free.
Mm.
So they still got their face, and they got their money back. So we're just trying to be honest and honorable. And
Yeah.
um, so we started looking for funding, and it was, I want to say, like super early January, or mid, I don't know, mid December, something like that, late December, somewhere around there. It's kind of blurry. We got some, and it basically was like matching the Kickstarter.
Sure.
So then we knew, it's like, okay, we put a bunch of effort into this, and people were not down for it. Um, so that's where we get to this question where you're like, where did it kind of shift? Um, it was an ugly, probably, when January came, everyone just kind of went on vacation.
Mm.
We gave our employees 2 weeks, and just go off and just refresh, because when you come back, shit's gonna be hitting the fan. And then during those 2 weeks, I didn't have a lot of personal savings at that time. I spent a lot of it just to move overseas, to bring my wife and come here and repurchase essentially everything because it's too
Yeah.
expensive to ship it all. So we didn't go anywhere, and I just sat down and wanted to just get my mind fresh off a hide or die, and I started working on the moped manslaughter prototype again, and it's basically looking at the entire art style of that, and what the game was going to be, and because we were realizing that we put all of our eggs into one basket,
Yeah.
which was the hide or die 15 versus 1 dedicated server 1v1 at the end. The matches were taking 45 minutes, and you can't have two players in a dedicated server for 45 minutes. You're going to go broke. It's just there's no other way around it. That's why battle royales also have the closing ring,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you want that shit to be done fast. Obviously the pressure and all that too, but so I worked on Moped Manslaughter for probably about 2 weeks, and then when the guys came back, we had a contractor, do some stuff on it. Why we started thinking about hide or die, and we did some animations, and we had a nice little prototype, but it's like, all right, we kind of have a little something here in case we got to go to it, but it's back to time for hide or die,
Hmm.
and February was essentially just, I don't want to say fighting, but lots of design meetings.
Okay.
We at the end of December we ended up getting moving offices.
Okay.
We got a much bigger place, which was in the apartment complex where literally all of our employees lived. It was right downstairs. It was like 5 times the size for basically the same price.
Convenient.
So we moved into that. So we had a nice big area and large TV and couch and bathroom and all of our private stuff. So we've posted some photos of that in some of our updates. So all of February was, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Well, what we thought would work didn't work, and we basically just kind of listed out like what do people like? What did they like about every version that we've played? And it constantly kept coming back to size. People were really upset that if the killer found them, they just would die, and then they're out of the match and they're gone. You come in with your friend, he's gonna play 45 minutes, and you died in the first section.
Sure.
It's horrible for streamers. It's horrible for people playing with their friends, but it's a great solo experience. And you know, as we've seen with battle royales like Fortnite and the one by Respawn, what was that one called? Like the Titanfall universe,
Respawn. Oh, Apex.
Apex, Apex Legends. They put in respawn mechanics essentially. You know, because it sucks. You play with your friend, and then he's gonna go on and play 20 minutes. You gotta sit in the lobby, or if
Yeah.
you're streaming, you just gotta sit there and spectate. It's it's not good. So, we were trying to figure out solutions around a lot of that stuff, and people constantly kept telling us they want to be able to fight back against the hunter, because if the hunter is going to be very strong and deadly and they find me and I die, I need to have get out of jail free cards.
Hmm.
A lot of other stuff happened, but that's where we ended up getting all the items and guns, and we said that we were going to have respawns essentially. You lose all the darkness you had collected and kind of have to start over, but you at least stay in the same match with your friends, and you wouldn't be spending more time in the lobby than playing. And but basically all of that February, we just tried to figure out what people liked and why people didn't come back and play and what was not fun. And we just realized a lot of the things that we originally set out to do were just so bad for the experience for 90% of the people in the server. So that's kind of like what shifted it to the escape game mode. We still had some plans for LMS,
Hmm.
but we were hoping that escape was going to catch people's attention, And more so, what it did was it just like shocked them and surprised them, you know.
And
And there was
this is the like PVE uh, game
yeah,
type where there are still killers. Once you collect a certain amount of darkness, you would go to a darkness site and become a killer, and then go find people. And it was like the entire map. It was like basically the entire map. It was super huge. Go find people and kill them.
yeah. And another one of the things was I never get a chance to play Hunter. I mean, I literally cannot explain to you how many emails I just read of. I never get to play Hunter. I never played Hunter. I can't play Hunter. Even the people who came back for the December beta test with 300 players, they just couldn't play Hunter because you couldn't put predefined spots because then people are going to cheese it.
Yeah.
So we needed to make it essentially random. Obviously excluding buildings for clipping and stuff, right? But and people were just so upset. So we're like, well, fuck it. Let's have multiple hunters. And you do your objectives. If you want to become hunter right now, you can go be hunter.
Yeah.
And then go on your little rampage and you have a limited time. And we really thought that was an awesome mechanic. And there's a decent chunk of people who much, much, much preferred Escape to the LMS that we had before. And that when we announced it, a lot of people kind of started dreaming of what the game would be for them. And that was our idea with Bale County
Okay.
and the Escape game mode, because we wanted to populate it with you could hop on a moped, which I already had the code for from the little prototype, and drive around the map and you know go to different destinations with friends, and he's on the back with a gun, and he's just firing at the hunters. He's trying to chase you, and you're going in a circle, and just make it more sandboxy, and
Sure.
try to be more of like a horror adventure that you're going out to with your friends, because we had found that people just wanted to play with their friends.
Yeah.
Um, and with that is when we announced the essentially respawns. You'd come back out of the hatch, and when, just the word respawn just like made people panic. So we took it out, which was one of these things where feedback kind of muddied our vision.
Okay.
Kind of coming back to that, and we shouldn't have done it. It was a horrible decision. We shouldn't have done it, and we did. And many of us, that were in the company, including employees, believed that that was one of the reasons it didn't go so well in the early access release. A lot of reviews about it's too hard. I have to go back to the lobby. I can't play with my friends. And that was a bad decision.
Although I will say that being a member of the Crow Gang is pretty sweet. So you don't necessarily have to respawn, but getting that achievement to shit on someone was the bane of my existence the entire time I played that game. I could not. It was so difficult. But yeah, Crow Gang for life. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, there's kind of like a story for the final version of it, but essentially we went to early access. We added in LMS, and community is pretty split. A lot of people liked the LMS version that we put together, which we tried to address some of the issues, and some people only wanted to escape and were mad that LMS was pulling players away. And we got that division. Whenever there's a 50-50 choice, it's always 50-50.
Yeah.
It's never overwhelmingly one or the other. So essentially, the early access release was good. We won a Steam award. We were Steam's best of 2019. We were one of the top releases of August. And as much as people maybe want to shit on our decisions and all of that jazz, they can't take that away from them. So I'm, we're pretty proud of that, and we know we did some things right and some things wrong in that whole journey from, the start of 2018 to release in August 2019 for early access. But there was a core thing there that people liked, but we did it in a single year from the Kickstarter, actually working on it full time. which is way beyond what normal Kickstarters do, except for the S tier ones, which just blow up.
Yeah.
We didn't sit on it for years and years and years and put out some half-assed version of what we had said we would do. We went above and beyond, I believe, and then tried to still put LMS in, even though we wanted to completely abandon it, but we still were kind of dragging it along as we implemented, Escape,
Sure.
because we had a feeling people were still going to want it, and just imagine doing double the amount of work. Is really what it was. Obviously, focus was on Escape, but um, LMS was still fun for what it was. I mean, if you watch some videos of Monto or Ohmwrecker or Satellizer, they had amazing clips, amazing videos of LMS, and it was fun, it was intense, but their skill level was just so beyond everyone else of the way that they wanted to play LMS that those people just would get wrecked and they
Never
just would
play
be pissed because they can't play with their friends and all that jazz.
Yeah, it creates a weird environment. And I know that
Yeah.
with the Kickstarter backer tier that I had, I was given a couple more keys, and I had chosen to give those away to some of my viewers so that we could play when the early access came out. We could play Escape or LMS together. And I think a majority of my community, because we are primarily a Dead by Daylight community, enjoyed LMS a little bit more. I mean, I preferred Escape, especially because it was a lot easier to farm the currencies. Uh, but
Yeah.
the LMS mode was pretty fun, and I guess I had never really thought of the progression of the shifting of the game makes more sense when you think about it in terms of Escape than it does LMS. Like LMS seems like not where the game was going to go. But I definitely saw a bunch of like, hey, you destroyed me. I'm never gonna play the game again. Refund,
Yeah.
which sucks. And I I don't know if there's any fix for that other than focus more on one game type than the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we would have put full resources into LMS, all it would have been was a bit more polished. Probably wouldn't have had some of the release state bugs that we had with it, which were just complete like oversights on my part. So you can blame me for that. Because we actually had the LMS bunker
Yeah.
for, I mean, the LMS bunker, like the original from the Kickstarter video, was there in the way you entered the game 1 week before we launched in August.
And that was with the
And
like the big gate opening and you running out.
yeah, where you just run up from the base, essentially the
Yeah,
basement,
yeah.
right, or whatever,
Okay.
and go out. And we switched it to that bunker, and he spawned in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons for that was performance down there was just, it was so bad because it was like under the ground, so you could look up, essentially like stuff would render that was, we try to like face people away from the main play area, and we try to put out like occluders and stuff like that, but that area had to be baked, for the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, because it didn't look great, but then you have like this whole baked level here, which you're only in it for 30 seconds in the beginning. It was just a whole thing. So essentially, we had to move everything out just in a panic before release, just because of performance reasons.
Mm.
And that's where I ended up making some mistakes with the way LMS worked, where you just came out of the hatches and stuff. It was ugly. It was ugly.
Well, so okay, so now we're at early access, and there's streamers getting a hold of the game. Now we're actually allowed to stream the game, and we're allowed to record the game and produce footage for it. So it's getting out in front of people. We have good success with the early access, and then something happened. I shifted my stream to half Dead by Daylight, half Hide or Die. I was starting to get a lot of footage that I could use for various videos. I was starting to do achievement hunting videos. Um, Something happened in early access, and I don't know if you know sort of behind the scenes when or how this might have happened, but people just sort of stopped opening the game. People stopped playing the game, and then people stopped talking about the game. It was a gradual shift, but it was something that I myself found when games started to become harder and harder to find, especially in escape mode. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was disconcerting at the time.
Yeah. So basically, like the first 3 weeks are probably pretty solid, um, but the people who really liked the game and played it a lot, they got through their 25 hours of progression that we had in there. And
That's
what
right.
just what we kind of saw was, once there's nothing to grind for, people just stop playing games. I don't understand it. Maybe the game's just not fun enough, so they only want the grind. And I find this to be a really common thing, which is the whole reason battle passes exist now. It's the whole reason, because of this universal truth that if people have something to grind for, they're not going to play it unless it's just the most fun game in the world,
Sure.
like Rocket League or something like that, where you don't even care about getting the stuff, you just because it's fun. Um, and we're like, okay, well, we said we're going to put Swifter out, so we release Sledge was his name,
Yeah.
the killer, and we decided to put the respawns back in because we still were getting the refunds and the emails. It's just like it's not fun because I just die right away and the game's over, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. So we put like the coffin respawn mechanic into the escape game mode, which eventually has made its way into the actual full release version
Mm-hmm.
because there was good feedback on it. And we shrunk the map down because the player base was decreasing, and people complained that they had to travel too far to get between objectives. And the idea was, maybe we didn't educate players on this very well, even though we had a tutorial which was like super fleshed out. um, there's a low percentage of people who actually even did it, but the idea was, all right, you're on objectives, you kind of got a cluster of an area, and then you're just like, it's time, I want to be hunter. You become hunter, and now your speed is just ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
And I actually think back then you could, I don't know if we took this out or not, but you could press N, bring up your map, and you could just teleport to locations as a hunter. I think that was still in there.
Well, there were the teleport beacons. I'm not sure if you could actually like just click it, but you could go to a beacon at
Yeah.
and teleport around the map.
I know at one version, at one point, I mean, we made so many fucking versions of this game that, but you could press M, you could just click, and you just would go. But the idea was, okay, you're going to teleport to an area where you obviously know other players are because you've been kind of around here collecting your darkness, and now you're going to go kill them, and then your hunter juice is going to run out, and now you're in this area, and now do the objectives. So the large distances, really what that was about was more of like the AI combat and some of our more like, we call them motifs, where, the door would slam, something would fall off the shelf,
Sure.
a chair would rock, all that kind of stuff. Um, and that was kind of the point of that. So we're like, all right, well, let's shrink the map down. We kind of removed most of the motifs because there wasn't a lot of empty space. And it just wasn't good enough. I mean, we tried some stuff with LMS with that as well, and the player base just kept going down. And I think it's just because it wasn't fun enough. And progression. I think if we had just progression upon progression upon progression, we could have drug out that player base for a few months, but it's a lot of effort to make that stuff.
I remember you reminding me about progression. I had forgotten that it was survivor, and then each killer was leveling up to level 20 based on XP to unlock their different perks and access to different things. I remember hitting level 20 with stitches and going around and like murking people all over, but then being like, okay, well now what? Then at that point, my goal in the game was to collect all of the cosmetics, and that doesn't really feel like a good space. I mean, the game was still obviously very fun for me, but dealing with
Oh, the
that would.
cosmetics were just complete
that's
garbage. Our
that.
characters were horrible. It was ugh.
I mean, I enjoy it, but that's something I
In the
want to
release
touch on.
version, you know, I think we have triple A characters and cosmetics. Um, I mean, Swanton, he now works at PUBG
Okay,
as a senior lighting artist.
nice.
Um, and look at those characters and those cosmetics compared to ours.
Yeah,
I mean,
early access was also a bit of a downgrade from where they are now. So,
oh yeah, early access was really bad for us and probably them too. Um,
so you said you had played very little Dead by Daylight. How
yes,
much do you think the other two devs have?
I think Swanton has a little bit more than me. I mean, he maybe have by that time maybe put in like 15 hours, and Sam probably zero.
Hmm.
Um, Chris, our 3D artist, who was our freelancer from before the Kickstarter, we hired him as a full time employee, and he's probably got 2,000 hours
Okay.
or more. So we went to him for a lot of our design decisions.
Hmm.
So I put all the blame squarely at his feet.
So that's what I wanted to talk about. With the current release of the game, it is truly an asymmetrical horror game. It is one killer and three survivors with a relatively small map,
Yeah.
with objectives to accomplish, and then you can leave and escape and win, or the killer just kills you a bunch of times and it's fine. So there's been, I think, two games that have that philosophy that have reached quote unquote success: Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I've not played Friday the 13th, but I know it is a very popular game, and it's on the list to play. So beyond things like server costs and dealing with the community in terms of last man standing versus escape, um, was there ever a conscious decision to just go like, hey, we're going in this direction, we're gonna double down on the asymmetrical horror instead of the battle royale, or instead of escape? Like, where do you think that diverged, where it went from the two game modes, or even your own want to focus on escape, versus the current release of the game?
Well, I can probably tell you the exact date if you give me a second here.
Okay.
We posted, it's on our website here, quick. We posted, hmm, yeah, I don't see it. I guess we posted How Did I 1.1 on September 5th, 2019. Thought we had a post about what we were going to do. Huh. It would have been late September, I believe. So not an exact date, but I think it would have been late September. We posted that we were essentially going to try to make a more focused version. Um, we believed that the extractors was a good mechanic. We believed collecting darkness was a good mechanic. We thought the coffin respawns was a good mechanic. Um, the hiding mechanic, which we, in the Kickstarter trailer and the October and December betas of 2018, we thought were really good, except they were just very unforgiving if you got found.
Yeah.
And we made a really poor decision in the spring of 2019 that, okay, people love the hiding mechanic. It's, the little peeking was awesome. The sounds are good. The animations were good. it wasn't the character, but like the lids and
Yeah, yeah.
whatever's opening.
It's like
It
flap
was
them.
it was creepy. It was you could peek. Our peeking mechanic, I essentially just took what I saw in Alien Isolation, which Swanton really liked, and
Nice.
just made that peeking mechanic for us.
Hmm.
And we made a really stupid decision to, well, let's just crank that up to level 10. If people love hideables, all right, we're going to have enter and exit animations. We're going to have animations for when the hunter finds you in there. Now, he can't just kill you in there because then why would you ever get in the hideable? So we have to have animations for him to pull you out. Where in the early days, you just like, it was some really stupid sound effect, just like, and then you just would like jump out, you just would pop out and just, run off. So, we're like, all right, let's make all these animations. Well, all of our killers are going to need, bespoke animations because all their sizes are different. Well, what are we going to do about Stitches? Some of the things he's not even tall enough. So he's going to like climb in and pull them out. And all that did was just make bugs and
Sure.
make it clunky. And, nothing against our animator. He's a first person guy. I mean, he does all the first person animations for Dead Matter.
Okay.
He'd been working on that before, and we really tried to push him to become better and work on his third person. And third person's difficult. It's a completely different craft from first person because you can't do crazy weird stretching off screen when you're really reloading a gun and all this kind of stuff. So I feel bad for him. It was hard. The bugs obviously weren't his fault. That was
Yeah.
on me and Sam. But people didn't like it. It was just clunky, and it trying to elevate the hiding experience just ruined it. Um, so we removed all the animations, and we just kind of made hiding in actual hideables kind of a secondary thing in the full release version. Um, but Swanton, he sat down and instead of just trying to make stuff look good, he's like, all right, let me actually try to do some level design here. So there's a lot of areas you shouldn't be able to get into. But using the environment to hide and really spending time on the lighting to make some dark spots for you to go. And that was kind of how we decided to handle the hiding mechanic. But we believe that we had all these kind of like good ideas which worked good in isolation, and we're just like, let's just crunch everything down, get rid of all the extra stuff, and just focus. Um, and that's kind of how we ended up just making that really focused version of the game. um, I, I think one day Sam is just like, hey guys, I made a little sliding mechanic, isn't this cool? And it was very cool,
Yeah.
and we just were like, okay, the game's slide or die now. So it's not so much about hiding, it's about sliding and some of the chasing, which people really like.
Yeah.
And we had a core group of guys in our Discord. Their Discord channel name, it's private obviously, but it was called the Cool Boys Club. And everyone in there helped us test from, I want to say, like mid-December of 2019 all the way until release. Um, we got people who hated the game. We got some people that loved the game in that group and just play and play and play and play and play. Something we didn't do leading up to early access was QA testing,
Sure.
because that's expensive and it's very time consuming. And all those playtests, I would go into the playtest with the Cool Boys Club, and I'd have to run through, so because I need to see stuff happening when it happens. I need them to call it out. So I mean, my notebook's here somewhere. The whole thing, it's just like bugs, 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 and then just me crossing stuff out, just pages and pages and pages for months with those guys. And the final release version of Hide or Die is the best version out of all the versions. There's no question. No one can argue it. The quality is better. The polish is better. It's more fun. It's more exciting. Heartbeat is it gets pumping faster. The progression's better. Everything's better. I mean, the player retention was better. Obviously not fantastic, but
Sure.
everything was better except how many people bought the game, because you only get one chance
Hmm.
as an indie game dev. You get one chance, and that's it. Unless you're No Man's Sky and you got Sony behind you, and then you get another
I don't
chance.
want to talk about that.
But
That's for another time. So,
yeah,
what about the phone mechanic? We have not talked about that at all.
yes, that was something I came up with as a way. We're like, okay, people need to be able to talk to each other. Okay, do we do proximity chat? We know how bad that can be in games, and abused, and everything that you're doing is almost always just countering the way people play games, multiplayer games specifically. It's just toxic and abusive and exploitive. And
Yeah.
so we thought, oh, the phone would be a great mechanic, because what we were going to have is you could call individual players. I mean, everything I'm about to tell you, it was all in the game. It was code, it worked. We just, made a decision. But you could call individual players, and then you could have a voice chat with them. You'd save the contact in your phone. You could text. You can have your little group, kind of essentially party up, and then you guys can text.
Yeah.
You text the whole group. We thought it would be cool, like, oh, everyone's together in the bunker. You're all in one big, like WhatsApp group or whatever.
Sure.
And someone dies, that means they left the group. And we'd have a little admin message would pop up, and it's probably one of the features I'm most proud of, because the UI of that was just, it was beautiful, it was crisp, it was legible, it was pretty responsive. It just was awesome. We had selfie mode in there too, in the early versions,
Sounds pretty cool.
and it it was used in the version of LMS that we ended up making. Even in the beta, it was probably used more because it was a little bit slower. But because the game was so slow, the phone kind of took up that time where people are like, "Oh, it's boring as Survivor. There's no action." Um, Escape, it was decent. It wasn't fantastic, because you had a gun and there's AI. You don't spend a lot of time on your phone, and the hunters are so fast.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't do that a lot. And then obviously the final version of the game, it was slide or die. So texting on the phone just wasn't. It didn't benefit you. It only put you at risk.
Yeah.
So we removed the selfie mode because I still don't know why to this day why we had performance issues. It was fine in the old beta, but I could never figure it out. So I just had to disable it, unfortunately. And then towards the end, it kind of turned into more of a debug tool where you could do like / remove UI, and then it just would take all of the UI off, and anybody could do that.
Okay.
Or there was another debug command I can't remember, but yeah, it just kind of wasn't important anymore, unfortunately, just because the way the game went. But it was an awesome mechanic. I'm really proud of it, actually.
I think the phone mechanic is my most favorite game mechanic that I've seen in a very long time. That really set Hide or Die apart for me from like everything else going on at the time. It was such an interesting way to be able to communicate with people without having to like hey, maybe if there's a voice talk with one person, that's okay. But coming from other games where you basically only have like emotes in game or like a loose like lobby chat to talk to people, kind of sucks. And the phone like makes it very immersive, especially with a flashlight and everything like that. It was really cool. So, you said you taught yourself Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you picked Unreal as opposed to maybe Unity or something else?
Yeah, 2010, I tried to make like a top-down tank shooter in Unity, and it was a disaster. So I did some stuff with UDK for a while, with like my clan that we played Crisis,
Sure.
with before, and Battlefield Bad Company 2. God, that was a good game.
It was a good game.
You know, um, and then I was in Korea, spring of 2014, and Unreal Engine released Unreal Engine 4. And I had just switched from teaching English full time to part time, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. each day. And then I would rollerblade back to my very tiny apartment along the Han River after teaching the kids. And I had so much time, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Should I just, I don't know, just join a soccer league or
Read a
something? I mean, I
book.
did that too, but I didn't know what to do. So I thought this is a good time. I'll buy a laptop and I'll just try to teach myself game development again. I tried so many times, but just never put in the effort. And I was in my mid to late 20s then, and I just thought that if I put some effort in, maybe I can make something.
Hmm.
So I picked up Unreal Engine 4, and it had blueprint scripting. Um, Something I learned teaching kids English was there's a lot of different ways people learn. Some people, it's all about sound and just listening. A lot of people, it's very visual. A lot of people must actually do whatever it is. So, especially with teaching English, some kids were very good where, they would have like workbook problems and they could do great. Others, it was horrible. They couldn't do anything. And maybe those kids were super, super good at acting out, like going to a restaurant in person with other kids.
Hmm.
And they would learn so well. And then others would want to, it's physical learning. I would go on the chalkboard, I'd draw like a bullseye, and I put like candy or stickers or whatever. And I had this really big bouncy ball. And the chalkboards, they'd been there for years. So if you hit it, it just would like the dust and it'd leave a spot. So I could see like it was like a target. So, it's a reading class. Reading class sucks.
Yeah.
So I always pick a book that had like a picture, like a full page picture. This is probably like middle school kids, every 3 pages or so. All the kids that kind of read their sections, we'd get to the picture page. And this is where all the kids, they just would get all hyped up because I'd have my big ass bag of candy and I would ask a question about the picture. And then whoever could answer it first, like, what is Sally doing? It was very open ended things. Or how many basketballs do you see? And it was just like a storybook. And if they got it right, they came up and then, they would stand, 15 feet away. They'd have to bounce the ball on the ground once and hit the chalkboard. And then, I'd tally points and all that jazz. And some of those kids, that's the only way they learned is because they physically had to do something to remember what they're doing. And let me tell you, those kids got so good at answering those questions in just like milliseconds because they wanted their chance to do that physical thing.
Sure.
Um, Taking all that back, learning that I am a visual learner.
Hmm.
So when I came across blueprint scripting, it wasn't just typing text, which is essentially just reading, right? I could connect the wire to here and then plug this into here and pull off of this. And for me, like I can close my eyes right now and I can picture, the node graph of the HOD character. It's like a map. Like Sam and I, we're the two programmers. I mean, we hired a guy in his name was Nick. It was March of 2019. He did a lot of our UI stuff for us, helped us out, for the early access. And he did programming too. He was a very smart kid. He is actually working for a studio in New Hampshire, and they do like mobile games for like the NBA, NHL, and all that.
Nice.
So he's off working at a studio. Sam is at Respawn doing lighting. Like I said, Swanton is at PUBG, senior lighting artist. And then I work for a studio called Player First Games. It's a new one founded by the guys who worked on League of Legends, God of War, the new Harry Potter game from Avalanche, and Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So, we have a studio of about 20 people, and we're working on a game. I can't say anything about it, but it's awesome.
So you are
So
working on a game.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm at a AAA studio too, technical designer. Nick is out doing, Billy's on Dead Matter, which could blow up. He was our animator, and then Chris went to do some more work, but he mostly does freelance. He could get a job. He could probably get a job at PUBG or Respawn as a 3D artist, but
Doesn't want to
he's
commit.
probably a little disillusioned after all that. It's hard. It's hard in game dev. But yeah, that's just why I picked up Unreal. I made stuff for their marketplace. Got a little bit of money. I kind of couldn't believe it. And then just started making like little mobile prototypes and little stuff here and there. And but really, it's a blueprint scripting because I do very little C++ now, only when I have to. Only when I have to. I'm not great at it. But blueprint scripting in Unreal Engine, I'm an expert. That's obviously why I'm working doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's awesome. I've been using the software for 6 years. Unity is very powerful. It's definitely better for mobile, I would say. The community, there's just so much history there that a lot of people have a lot of resources.
Sure.
So I wouldn't pick one over the other, but for me, no question. It's Unreal,
So
as you can see.
clearly, clearly, all of the Hide or Die devs are busy, and I think everyone's made that clear. You guys are always still on the Discord, the VecFour Discord. Um, just letting people know that hey, you're all working full-time jobs, so you can't expect the same level of advancement in Hide or Die that we could when you guys were full-time Hide or Die, which is still super reasonable, and I'm glad that you guys are having so much success. Um, a lot of people have been very vocal about a potential second season of Hide or Die, a second calling card, and I guess a lot of people feel it's an expectation. I don't know if it would even be feasible, but the addition of LMS back into the game, Last Man Standing, with the fact that you guys are busy with your own lives and busy with your own work, is there a feasible chance that will happen? Is it like this will happen at some point rather than it's never going to happen ever? Or is it like, hey, we're actually working on it on our downtime? It's just going to take a bit.
Yeah, so it sucks because when you work a full-time job, sometimes there's contracts you're not really allowed to do anything, and we had full intention to do a second season, but when people don't buy the game, who's to say we're gonna put time and money into it again and then nothing's gonna come from it?
Yeah.
Do I still want to? I would love to, because I love VecFour. I think Hide or Die is a good IP.
Mm-hmm.
I've done so much VR work. I would love to do a little VR spin-off, which I think our environment in our IP, kind of
Bale County.
the world that we built, I think it would be good. I just don't have time to do that right now. We just don't. It really sucks. I mean, big time.
Something that I noticed when the game first launched, full release launch, a lot of people were hankering for the ability to spend money. I remember a lot of people had already had access to the game because they got it in early access or even before with the Kickstarter, and they were wanting to spend money. So you introduced the gold skins for like Stitches and the Survivor or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like $5 or $10, and people bought it up immediately. Obviously, I don't know how many sold, but it seemed like at least a lot of people that I was running to at the time had it. Would you ever consider doing a second Kickstarter?
A second Kickstarter? No, we haven't thought of that. I mean, we've talked pretty extensively and did do a lot of work to try to at least make the game free to play. People probably aren't going to want to hear this, but it's probably 90-ish% of the way there to being free to play.
I think free to play is a great space.
It's just there's a few more things with dedicated servers because we just can't do free to play with dedicated servers. I mean, the costs are already ridiculous. We're trying to keep the servers up as long as we can. Hopefully, we can get a blast from like really cheap for the Halloween sale and get an influx of players. Because once the price hits a certain point, you get a couple hours of fun out of it. It's still worth it.
Yeah.
So hopefully that goes decently well, just so we can just keep servers going for a while. Even with no one in them, it's still expensive, but we people are still playing games, so we're trying to keep them up as long as we can. you
Sure.
know, basically any kind of very tiny sales that we get is just pretty much like barely covering the server costs. So
Mm.
once that starts to dip below it, if we don't get a big enough surge, from a Halloween sale or something, we just kind of have no choice. But um, I think, at like a $5 or something like that for a Halloween sale, I mean, it worked for F13. A lot of
Yeah,
people
yeah,
played
yeah.
that game. So, as far as season two, I mean, we did a bunch of work on Undertaker too, and it just sucks that we do all this work, but it the hardest part's the last 20% anyway.
Sure.
And that's stuff that takes a lot of effort and time. Um, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but I don't believe VecFour is never going to release something again or something for Hide or Die.
Sure.
Um, right now we're very focused on the companies that we're at, and everyone's in a position for a much more longer term thing.
Mm.
Where we are, but you never know what happens. The world's a crazy place, and
You might get locked
ideally,
down for 4 months.
yeah, yeah. Ideally, there would be something coming, especially if we could get to free to play, and at least make it easier for people to play games. Because Hide or Die should live on forever, but that's not always a feasible thing to do.
Sure. Um, the current cosmetic system in the game never really made sense to me, because coming from the early access, it felt like I don't remember exactly how many cosmetics. It felt like with the rotating shop, it gave me an excuse to open the game every day, and it gave me an excuse to play the game, to collect the cosmetics, to make my character look however I wanted. But right now in the game, everyone collects the same pool of cosmetics. They just collect it at different times with the darkness web system. Um, I personally
County
think.
card,
Sorry, what did you say?
county card.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How
and
they
and
get
the
this money.
the the battle pass stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I personally think that free to play and then having just cosmetics that let us give you money would be fantastic. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we built a really flexible system for that, where if we wanted to make a shirt with your logo on it, it's going to take us 10 minutes, and we'll put it up on PlayFab backend, and it'll just populate as long as the textures are in the game.
Sure.
Actually, no,
Is that an
because we
offer? I mean,
download the texture. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty trivial, because we built this version of the game with we thought we would at least be able to do the same amount of sales we did for early access,
mhm.
because everything we read is you're going to get the same promotion as you do during early access, which just wasn't the case, and it just sucked.
Do you
And
think that Steam and their algorithms screwed with that at all? Like new and trending and things like that.
well, I would say, obviously Valve knows what they're doing, because they're a multi-billion-dollar business, so it's
Yeah.
working for them. It There's probably too much real garbage on Steam, which kind of clogs stuff up. Um, I'm not even that upset about that kind of stuff, because I think people can see it, and they know right away whether something's at least decent indie quality or AAA, and
Yeah.
everything that's garbage, people just kind of ignore. But the problem is that let's say 10 games are going to release that day, so that's 70 games for the week, and there's a good chance there's only two or three of those that are even worth looking at.
Hmm.
So, the trending list is going to have 70 games, and there's only two or three that are in there. So, if your branding isn't perfect to get someone to click on it, they're not going to see it. No one's
Yeah.
going to click on every single one and go down. And then, something that really hurt us, every single person's review that bought the game via Kickstarter, their review does not count towards our review score. Only
Interesting.
Steam purchases do, the one that shows.
Yeah.
So your most fervent fan base, who probably is going to, 3 out of 4 of them at least are going to like the game. The game comes out, and they've been beta testing and all this jazz, and they already got 15, 20 hours, and they leave a positive review. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Steam's algorithm is just looking at what that total score is.
Yeah.
And the people who play the game for zero point 0.1 hours and they refund instantly because it's trash game, if you get 15, 20 of those reviews straight away, you're instantly in mix
Yeah.
and it's over.
That's real
So
fucked up. I didn't know that about
it's
Steam.
yeah, it's
That's
bad.
messed up.
And the only way around that is to make a perfect game. And some people have been able to do it.
Yeah.
And we just weren't able to.
So I know, at least at the beginning, maybe around Kickstarter time, this wasn't a thing, but in the time since then, the Epic launcher has become a bigger player,
Yeah.
in this indie space. Do you think that if you were to start again, at the beginning, that you would go with Epic, or would you stay with Steam?
Well, I mean, I'm an Unreal Engine shill, so I think Epic makes a very good product, at least their engine.
Hmm.
Um, I, to be honest, I don't play a lot of games anymore. The one game that I probably played the most is Rocket League, and they're about to go free to play, and you need an Epic account.
Yeah.
And a lot of people whine about that, and it's just like, if you don't like it, don't play it. Like, who gives a shit? I don't care if you buy your game from GameStop or Walmart.
Sure.
I understand there's privacy and all that, and I'm not dismissing any of that.
Sure.
But with this playing field, okay, think about it. You have 2 job offers, and one job says to you, goes, okay, we're going to pay you $0 a year salary, but 50%, well, yeah, like 50% of everything you sell, you're going to get commission.
Sure.
And you're not going to be able to really get any of your own clients. I'm just going to show it to a lot of people, and if they like it, they'll buy it. Or you can go to the company that goes, we don't do commission sales here. We just pay you a flat $50,000, and you're just going to be expected to do X, Y, Z.
Sure.
Most people are going to just take the flat 50K job.
Yeah.
Because it's a guarantee. You can continue living your life. You're not going to have any of the stress and all the effort that you're going to have to put into it. And to me, it's exactly the same thing.
Mm.
So I don't fault anybody for, even if it's exclusive. I mean, I've always been a PC gamer. I never really played consoles except for, Halo, of course, on Xbox
Sure.
and all the early ones back in the day. But nothing's guaranteed. And when someone can guarantee you something, which means you can guarantee a paycheck to your employee who has a guarantee that their spouse is going to have an apartment and their child's going to eat, I just don't see how people can be against that.
Yeah.
So, as far as if we were to do it all over again, we did talk to Epic back in the day, but they weren't supporting multiplayer games yet, so we didn't go any further with the conversation.
Yeah.
Would we entertain it? Of course. Who wouldn't? You'd be a horrible businessman to not entertain something like that.
Mm-hmm. On a similar topic, do you think that a exclusive escape mode game could exist? Traditional escape mode in your vision.
Yeah, I think that would be a much bigger game than straight LMS, because there's a lot more. Kind of what we learned is when people see a video or a gameplay clip, they imagine their dream game around it if they're fans of whatever the genre is.
Yeah.
LMS is too structured, I think. It has to be too structured. Our Kickstarter video, looks great and it's slow and all that, but that's just not how it would actually go in multiplayer. So, I think Escape would do a lot better because it's a little more open world and all that jazz. But um, yeah, I think Escape would be better.
So you had mentioned that you think that Hide or Die is a good IP. Would you
Yeah,
ever entertain a like a partnership with a different studio or something like that?
yeah. I mean, we if someone wanted to license the IP to put it in another product or something, yeah, we'd be open to it for sure. Or like a remake or something.
Sure.
Not maybe a huge game, but yes, something. I'm sure we'd consider it.
We got to get
You
on.
know, I don't think we're like holding it tightly, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Stitches is a very good character. I think Bale County as a world is an interesting place. That I mean, there's a lot that we wanted to do, which I'm just not going to go into. It's going to take way too long, but we had big plans.
um,
Just don't worry.
I think stitches in a game like Hide or Die, where you have access to multiple kinds of killers. Or sorry, did I say Hide or Die? I meant Dead by Daylight. Sorry, you
Yeah.
put stitches in a game like Dead by Daylight, where you have multiple killers from multiple IPs. I think there is some amount of crossover to be had, and is in my head a awesome thing that could happen. There's also like for me, I work in a comic book store, so I see a lot of crossover IPs happen all the time. Right, I see
Yeah.
IPs from movies or video games come into comic books or vice versa. And I think Bale County, what drew me to escape mode was exploring Bale County and exploring the different setups in the map and the different buildings, like the weird cultists that were sacrificing people in a building. Like I wanted to know more about that or about this plane crash or whatever. So I think like what you said, just taking the Bale County area and putting it in some other license would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a story to tell there, but I'd still like to finish that story. So,
Sure.
hopefully one day in a spin-off or a small VR thing or something. I don't know, but there's more to tell. I mean, we didn't really start with all right, let's build a lore and all that, and it just kind of we just found fun things like Climb King, which was an achievement, and you know Sam and I kicked back and forth the whole story about him and what he was actually doing and all that, and I think someday we'll get into it. I hope so, but I
Hmm.
don't really want to give anything away in case we actually do.
Well, I'll say that a major part of my stream is world building, and I use a fantastic site called World Anvil. Shameless plug for particularly for Dungeons and Dragons, because I do a lot of D&D stuff, and world building is just such a fun space to get into, and you don't really know, at least like you say, when you're starting a project like that. That you can get so deep into just like one granular character, like trying to get the Climb King achievement and finding all those little notes and things. It's fun to
Well,
explore.
so unfortunately, the laptop's about to go out here, so let me just go
Okay.
grab my charger quick. Um,
Sure, sure. We can talk more about world building. How's it going, chat? I appreciate everyone for being here. Um, this is an exciting interview, and I think of anything, I've gained a lot of hope from this interview.
do I have a space? Is the question.
I've Yeah, I think this interview has given me a lot of hope. I think for the past couple of months, um, because I was such a proponent of this game, seeing the degrading marks from various people in the community, I was very discouraged, and that's sort of the community. Well, it's not the community. The community of the game is very positive and very good, right? The small outliers of people who are not positive have very big voices and echo very far, at least within me. So that sort of it didn't turn me off of the game, but it turned me off of listening to the community basically. And then when player bases started to dwindle, I just said, okay, well, I'll sort of wait until things happen, and this interview has given me a lot of hope for the future, even if it's a slow hope. You know, it's a an
So
eventual outcome.
we we, uh we tried to we were going to build these a lot of story around individual characters, and we were actually making, before the early access release, individual uh, hunter trailers basically, but not so much a trailer like you would see like a pre-rendered thing. You know, it's all going to be in game,
Okay.
and it was essentially all the origin stories in a minute and a half for each killer.
Okay.
Um, Stitches, I mean, there are some of these video clips, but I don't have them anywhere. Right now, I don't think we're releasing them because they were just very early stages. So I don't want
Sure.
to, take away from what they were. I will give you one early clip from something else, but I'll say
Okay.
that in a second.
Sure.
So we had these individual trailers for the killers, and essentially how they all knew each other is is some of the lore that we're building. Um, I really wish we could have finished those because I think the problem is we're such a small team. We Swanton's just is trying to do the After Effects
Mm-hmm.
and put together the trailer, but you know Stitch's particular trailer, he was in his prison cell, um, and the little darkness orbs that, like, when you would kill a killer and they drop them and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The trailer started with the shot of um, Stitches just like laying in his cell, and then it cut out to just the fisherman walking through the woods, and he takes one of these orbs and he just like chucks it over the fence, and it goes through the window, of Stitch's cell, and it hits the ground and bounces, and Stitches picks it up, and he gets essentially his ability to his dark sight, where he went up like over the cell outside and assassins the security guard. It was That was a small portion of that trailer, which I wish we would have got some of that stuff out, because people maybe could have been a little more invested,
Mm-hmm.
in what we were doing. And we had all these, for some more finished than others, for all of our hunters, um, and it's unfortunate when you get to really dive into that too much, but maybe one day. Um, and then we had a trailer which we called the Momentous trailer. Um, this one, it didn't get finished, and we didn't release it, but I'm gonna send you a link so you can play it.
Sure.
So only the Cool Boys Club, I think, has seen this,
Okay.
but
Okay.
no one else.
Interesting. Sounds pretty good. As a world builder, and I play a lot of World of Warcraft. And even some League of Legends. I really like world building and lore stuff. So that type of stuff invests me into the game. Um, oh, it's on YouTube. All right.
So this kind of ties into a story that we were trying to tell.
Yeah, yeah. Let me get this up quick. Maybe. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, we're all going to watch this together.
I don't think you have the audio.
Do I not?
No.
Is it like really low? Uh-oh. Should be coming through on the stream. There is audio? Okay.
Oh, I think I might have had it. Sorry. Start it over. I ruined
Okay,
it.
okay, we'll start it over. Hey, round 2. Krampus. All right, I think that's it. So I never really put this together um, before seeing that. That gives me intense Left for Dead vibes, and I think that maybe that's compounded by the new release. I guess coming next month. I think it is of a new Left
Oh,
4
really?
Dead.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to buy that.
Yeah, there's going to be a new DLC, and they're revamping a lot of the maps for Left 4 Dead 2 after like 10 years or something. Uh, I think that just connected my enjoyment for escape mode, the multiplayer PVE aspect that comes with
Yeah. Yeah.
escape mode is the same sort of sense that I got when I was playing Left 4 Dead with my buddies. It's not serious, but it's fun. There's things to do. There's objectives. There's killer if you want to be killer. There's things to explore. I think that's I think that trailer was fantastic, and it gives you a lot of room to give things more life, as opposed to just being like, hey, there's a killer here, and this is his name, and
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot we wanted to do. We did as much as we humanly possibly could. I mean, Swanton Sam and I, it was 80-hour weeks for 2 years.
yeah, I think that really shows in the small time that this game has existed. I don't think, even for someone like me who doesn't who has never tried to produce a game or anything like that, I think it's apparent that a lot of time and effort has gone into this, even past the point of some people would have given up, and I think the fact that VecFour and all their devs didn't give up gave us such a good community and a good foundation for things to come in the future. Even if VecFour decides to, maybe not make anything for Hide or Die, but make a new IP or finish Manslaughter, Moped Manslaughter, or maybe some VR
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. If you look, at some of the gameplay clips from our Discord alpha and to what we ended up releasing, it's clear that we just needed the right amount of time to get the game where it needs to be. But, things cost money. And if we ever really had the chance to work on a game for, 2 years from the very beginning when we know what it's going to be without all the deviations that we had to go through. I mean, obviously, look at all of us with the jobs that we have now. You know, it's very sad because, we had the talent, but we probably picked the wrong game to make. Because it's the genre is very difficult. Multiplayer is very difficult, and personally for me, asymmetrical games were not a passion at all.
Sure.
And maybe that was a mistake. We tried to dip into the community to get some of that, and hire Chris, who was a super fan. I think we did a lot of things right with it, and I mean, we see this with all these asymmetrical games. They just have no chance. I mean, how many years was last year worked on, and how many millions of dollars was their budget? And they still couldn't do it. And it looks polished, and obviously they worked hard, and they had way more people on it than us. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just a tough genre, and I accept that. We accept that, and it's just an unfortunate case. But there's a lot of lessons learned there. There's a lot of talent, and I mean, I still think there's some future where hide or die or VecFour is something can happen. But at this moment, we're on to other things because we got to eat.
Yeah. Life
But
keeps going.
yeah.
Well, I think that's about it for my questions. I think we hit on a lot of really good things. Um, is there anything that you want to say to the community directly, or anything?
I didn't even think of that. That's a good question. Well, I mean, if they have any couple questions, I mean, I could answer.
Does anyone have any quick questions? And I mean, we're the devs are always around on the Discord, so and there's a Q&A section on the Discord, so
Yeah, I mean, we'll just if there's any couple ones, I can go through quick in like 5 minutes. If not, whatever. You can't kill me again. That's the answer to that question. Too fast, slide in and die in.
slide and die. Oh my god.
I mean, as of right now, we're really not working on hide or die fully because we have to do our jobs.
Yeah, that obviously takes precedence. Slide or die hashtag Crow Gang.
Yeah,
That gives me more time to get my Crow Gang sweatshirt because I missed it in the early access.
yeah. If it goes LMS, will we get LMS with free to play? If we do get to free to play, the first iteration would not have LMS. What got me into game dev originally? Everyone wants to make their own game. It's you know
If
it's
you're a
tough to
gamer, you
say,
want to
but
make one,
yeah, it's difficult. It's way harder than people think. I'll tell you that. So be careful.
yeah. Yeah, do you think that the hide or die has hit a similar vein that the coffee machine did, in that it just sort of came back again and again and again, and
Yeah. To answer Leo's question real quick. Yeah, we will post. I'll post with whatever when the game that I'm working on releases. So you guys can play it. Um, the coffee machine and hide or die are very similar. Yes, you really hit that nail on the head. The only difference, I suppose, is that I decided to keep doing game development,
mm,
um, because I guess this kind of goes into like what I would say to the community. The people that loved us and loved the game, or at least liked it, more than 70%. Um, it's really encouraging to see because no one likes bad reviews or to be shit talked or get death threats and stuff, which happens. But we're in a public sphere, so
mm-hmm.
that's just the way people are, unfortunately. But um, not like doing a good job that's universally praised. It's tough. It's tough. Anything you make, even a child who draws a picture and shows their friend, and their friend's just like, "What the hell is that thing?" I mean, maybe kids aren't saying, "What the hell is that?"
My
When they
mom
draw a
put on the
picture.
fridge.
Yeah, but you know, uh, especially the Kickstarter backers,
Mm.
the vast majority of you just went out on a limb with very little information about us, to support us, and you know, maybe we didn't do exactly what you were hoping for, but we did everything that we thought had to be done. And I would argue that we made three separate games completely based on feedback and just the way the market is. And maybe we should have spent more time on others than different ones. But I would say one of the driving things the whole time was not to give up.
Sure.
Obviously that has to happen at some point, but I think we put in a valiant effort, and we we got a lot of people a lot of hours of fun. And you got to remember the game for Kickstarter backers. I mean, the average was like, I think $23 per copy it came out to, but some more than others. Well, generally the game was $15-$20 for people, non Kickstarter backers. And if you're getting 10, 15, 20 hours or more out of it,
It's pretty good.
I think that's pretty good. I know a lot of people in who play games believe they need to put in 1,000 hours, or it's their only game that they play. But I believe there's a sizable amount of people who years from now they will remember back to Hide or Die and a good moment that they had, or something they really liked about it, or another game borrows a mechanic or something. And you'll think of it, and that's good enough for us. We try to make something fun, and I think we did for a lot of people. And it was fun. It was fun to do. It's good to see happy people. The clips and the videos are not going to go anywhere, so
Yeah.
it's nice.
Like I have in my PC case that is right next to me, I have a old hard drive that has almost shit the bed that is not plugged in, but it's in the case because I want to keep it safe because it has B-roll that I filmed for Escape Mode and Last Man Standing in the early access that wasn't streamed because at some point I'm going to transfer it onto a different hard drive and do something with it because I don't want to get rid of it because there's that portion and that time period, especially playing with friends and playing on stream that I hold in very very high regard, and is up top with the old Halo 3 day type moments. So, and I appreciate VecFour for giving us the community that we have. I think I've met dozens of people on the VecFour previously Hide or Die Discord and in game that have come to my stream and played games with us and have made like long lasting friendships out of it. And no matter what negative things you have to say about the game, I think you can't really take that away from people. And without any iterations of the game, we wouldn't have had that.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of people that play the game in the community that I still talk to. Um, Chris, our 3D artist, he's a good friend of mine. And I know in the future if I ever need 3D art or something, that he will be the first one to volunteer. And there's a lot of good people. Um, I've seen Luke Gamer 01 grow from a young boy to a young man. As he's as he was in the Cool Boys Club. Maybe it'll be the Cool Men Club here pretty soon. Yeah, I mean it's been great. There's a lot of good people, and we did what we could.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's all that anyone can really ask for. Um, well, I think that's a good place to end it. Um, I would love to have you on again to talk about Hide or Die, unrelated things, unrelated to Hide or Die or VecFour, because I think your travels to what was it, South Korea and Singapore,
Yep.
uh, are very interesting to me, uh, especially with teaching and things like that. But that goes into non Hide or Die related things, so we'll do that some other time. Um,
Okay.
I appreciate everyone for stopping by. I will have this up on YouTube tomorrow and Spotify and other podcasting places, which I will link in the VecFour Discord, given if I'm given permission to do that,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, you're fine.
for people to listen to again in audio format, or if they missed portions of it, they can check that out there sometime this week. I'll post about it. I hope
I
everyone
see.
has.
I see one question there is
Yeah, yeah,
why
go
we
for it.
called it VEC4. Um, Swanton and I were in Singapore, just on a coffee break, and we're trying to come up with a name. Uh, Vec is short for vector, which is used, vector math is used in game development all the time. And the four comes from Sam, Swanton, myself, and then freelancers is the fourth person in that group, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
And the domain VecFour.com was available, and as soon as we saw that, we just knew we had to get it. I mean, we ended up going to the VecFour.digital
Sure.
because our original plans were actually to do stuff beyond games, with real estate and even marketing things because we have a wide skill set and the big wide experience of different stuff. So
Sure.
yeah, that's where VecFour Digital came from. And the fourth is just all the freelancers who we come and
Other.
hire, full time. So,
That's a good story. I like that, and I like the idea of um, indie studios or even game studios specifically moving to other fields that they may have other experiences in because you can do some crossover stuff that's pretty cool.
definitely, yeah, yeah.
All right. I hope everyone had a good night. I will not be doing a regular stream after this. So I will see everyone tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow we're going to be playing some Dead by Daylight because we're always playing that. I always say that I'm going to finish other games and then I'm like, I'll just play Dead by Daylight. That's fine. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.